Hello everyone. Welcome to IIFL Markets YouTube channel. Continuing with our Leader Speak series, today we have Mr. Sunil Subramaniam, Managing Director, Sundaram Mutual Fund. Welcome, Mr. Subramaniam. It is a pleasure to host you today. Trust you are doing well.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for asking. Yes, we're doing well.
Sir, we'll start with the basics and the broad-based questions first. So I would like to ask you your views upon the current market volatility and how should investors and people follow this investing approach in this kind of a scenario, and why are the markets defying the impact of COVID second wave?
Okay, there are a lot of questions rolled into one. So let me first start with how should investors address the volatility. So I think there are three key rules that investors should follow at any time, leave alone a time of market volatility. First is to always do goal-based investing. Never go by the flavor of the period or flavor of the month. Have a goal for every investment you make, right?
Right.
Second tool is that you should always diversify. You should never put all your eggs into one basket, right? Two. Third is that you must follow an asset allocation philosophy.
Correct.
Right? So this three-pronged strategy, if you take, right? So first you set a goal, then you say, okay, to achieve that goal, I will have a minimum of so many multiple asset classes. So in the category of the asset classes, right? As you know, there's one fixed income, which is truly fixed income, which is your bank deposits and savings account, right? And then there is fixed income within the mutual fund, which is not fixed in income at all, right? Which is as variable, not as variable as equity, but goes through variations, right?
Correct. Yes.
So that's the second category of fixed income. And the third category is equities. And the fourth category is gold. See, gold as an asset class earlier was not given importance, but I think the pandemic has taught us that gold is a good reserve asset class. When everything else doesn't seem to go well, people lay their faith in gold. So gold must always be a part. So what my point is that these four asset classes, at every point of time, you must have something in each asset class. None of them should be zero. Right?
But gold in the form of, sir, I may interrupt you, gold in the form of digital gold or physical gold, how do you prefer?
So it should be all in paper gold, which is digital gold, right? For the reason that making charges and wastages, right? And the whole uncertainty on the purity and the quality. These three are the biggest hurdles. You can say that, oh, this jeweler is more reliable, that reliable. But the fact of the matter is that since I'm looking at gold as an asset allocation, not as a sentimental purchase, right? For the sentimental purchase that you need to have, you plan for your daughter's wedding or, want to gift, that is different. I'm talking about gold as an investment. It should be always in a digital paperless form, because then only you can increase and decrease without transaction costs.
Correct.
So when you maintain this four philosophy principles, right, then what happens is that I would say at any point of time, 5 to 10% should be your liquid really fixed income assets, which is in bank deposits, which are, as you know, at a penalty, you can always take out a bank deposit. At least you're guaranteed, if you get 6%, at 5%, you can take it out, 1% penalty, right? So 5 to 10% should be in that, 5 to 10% should be in gold, right? Depending on your risk mentality. The balance 80% is what you actively manage, right, in terms of this. So in the fixed income category, right, when in the volatility time, your fixed income must be higher.
Right.
I'm talking about the capital market fixed income, because they are less volatile than equities. At the same time, they give you the benefit of what is called as disintermediation. That is, instead of the bank always takes away a share of the profit between what he lends and what he takes, the mutual funds through capital market products, right, give you that additional return, which is also helped by the taxman giving you a better taxation on that asset class compared to fixed deposits. So it definitely can give you. So there are two choices to make, three choices actually there. One is credit risk, where you can try to enhance the return, but you're taking on higher risk, right? Second is the interest rate play, duration. Like, because there is a 3-year taxation window for debt, right? People have a view of 3 years and feel that interest rate view should take. Now that I would say you must do only with the help of an advisor. But the third class within that, which is the liquid and ultra short-term class, there you can put majority of your money. within the debt part, because there is no issue. It is like almost as liquid as a savings bank account. You can take out your money anytime. But if you don't need it, which very often happens because we always over prepare for the uncertainties,
Correct.
if you stay for 3 years, your return will be much better because of taxation, even in liquid schemes.
Correct.
Right? So today, in my view, the right asset allocation to keep within the active asset classes, given the volatility, should be a 60-40. 60% should be in the equities asset class and 40% should be roughly in the fixed income capital market related asset class, right? So I think with that, then your overall portfolio is subject to volatility only to the extent of that 60% of that, which is actually will come to overall. If you take it 60% of 70 or 80%, so it will be actually 40 to 45% only of your thing. That's my recommendation. And if you see, typically there are products which are ready-made solutions called dynamic asset allocation funds, which actually do that. So if you see today, dynamic asset allocation funds have about 40-45% allocation to equity, which roughly fits what I am saying. So if you want to do it in a way, you can do a dynamic asset allocation, then individually you don't need to do that. So that's one aspect. So the reason I mentioned all of this is that in the volatile time, right, equities is the most volatile, but also gives you the best return.
Yes,
so
yes.
I think so. That is the way I would say that you should handle the whole situation from an investor's perspective. And the current situation is one of those rare situations in the earth where the whole world is affected by a medical crisis.
Correct.
Because the whole world is affected by a medical crisis, all the governments and the central banks of the world are throwing all their resources at it. And those resources, while ideally the government and the central bank would like it to go to reviving the economy, actually is used by participants to boost the stock markets.
Correct.
So actually there is a blessing in disguise. Because the situation is so bad, liquidity is excess, because that is the weapon of choice. So as an investor, that's why I'm saying you should have at least 40-45% in equity. You should not go zero to equity saying, oh, yo, corona crisis hai, lockdown hai. I cannot. You should not remove your money from equity, because equity is the beneficiary of the liquidity.
Correct.
So bear in mind that liquidity can get withdrawn and it can get pumped up. So there is volatility in the liquidity also. So having a balanced approach is that actually, funnily enough, the faster the world comes back to normalcy, right, you will actually see the markets reacting negatively to it.
Okay.
So that's what I want to prepare people for. It's a very unusual situation where the markets are in a bubble, but the bubble is not going to burst anytime soon. The bubble can grow bigger, but the point is that at some point of time, that could be 6, 12, 18 months from time, you cannot expect that the world will continue to be in a bad economic situation. Some point of time, the reversal will happen. The consistent efforts will get to a recovery of economic activity. But the markets today have already discounted that economic recovery.
Correct. Yes.
So when the recovery actually happens, the markets will not rise as much. In fact, they could go through a correction if in certain pockets that recovery was over anticipated. So be prepared for a volatile journey for that reason. And the beauty with going into dynamic asset allocation fund is that the fund manager, who is an expert, can decide what is the right moment to increase or decrease the equity. And you as an investor don't need to worry too much about it.
Correct, sir. So as you mentioned that, once there is a recovery and, we can see some negative aspect also. So do you believe that, given the current partial lockdowns and all, so sectors like airlines, hotels, real estate and retail construction will, recover anytime soon?
I think they will recover. The time frame is the one difficult to say. Okay, because of two reasons. One is that these cater to basic necessities of life, which is the need to travel on work.
Correct.
The need to have a leisure break. People so when the pandemic is behind us, and I believe that if you take, let's say, March 2022, I think that we will have enough people vaccinated in our country that the pandemic will become a part like a common cold in our life.
Correct.
I don't think we'll see a time when the pandemic will totally go away. It's a virus. It will keep mutating. It will be there. But our ability, just like measles and smallpox, which are also virus driven, it will be a permanent part of our life, but we'll be able to control and manage it better. So assume this March 2021 as a worst case scenario that a third wave also comes up and comes across. These sectors will revive in a cyclical way. They will bounce back much sharper. The problem is, when will the bounce back occur is what we don't know. So my suggestion is twofold here. If you want to invest in these sectors, right, two rules you must have in your mind. First is, do not look at it for 18 months after you invest. Second is, allocate systematically, because tomorrow further bad news means when you systematically allocate, you're acquiring more of those portfolios.
Correct.
Right? So take a 12 to 18 month view. Either you can put it as an SIP or you can put it as an STP, which you can use the liquid funds to keep the money and shift it from there gradually. And you can do it on a monthly basis, or you can say, today I'm starting, market is at this level. If there is a 5% correction, I'll put my money.
Right.
So every correction you can put the money. So that is called a smart, asset, spreading your risk. So if you do that over the next 12 to 18 months, what will happen is that the bounce back, which I believe cannot be later than 18 months. Right. Whatever happens, latest. So take this as a good investment period. But if you need money in the next 18 months, then you should liquidate it and keep it in a liquid fund.
Correct.
So the next 18 months is the volatility is here to stay, because as I said, these are cyclical sectors. To some extent, market discounted that recovery. So that recovery has to happen, and then a fresh growth path has to be defined. I believe the next 18 months, all of this will get done. So my suggestion is to take a 18-month view and do a systematic allocation, which effectively will take you somewhere close to 2023, Jan, Feb, March.
Right.
Which
right.
is, I believe, a time when the Indian economy will really be on a strong growth path.
Correct. So now, as you mentioned about these cyclical sectors that, we can keep a horizon of 18 to, 20 months for that. So apart from these sectors, which are the themes that, one should invest given the current scenario, the current volatile scenario? One day market is like at highs, and one day it is like, correcting by 400, 500 points.
So there are two things which I would say should be a permanent part of your portfolio, right? So in today's context, which is that first, look at what is very important in our lives, which we can't do without, come what may, and that is banking.
Correct.
Right? So banks are in a sweet spot because they got enough liquidity from RBI, they got enough soft interest rates from RBI, and they also have made adequate provisions for the risk. And then now Kamath committee has given a loan restructuring tenor. So the news on banks, which the fear was there when the pandemic came, is now much more eased. They are in a comfortable position, and any growth recovery of India has to be financed by the banking system.
Right.
So I believe that in India, we are a very still underbanked world and country. So I believe that bank has a huge scope to grow both in penetration, and they are in a sweet spot because of very low cost of raising funds to them. So banking as a sector, I believe, will continue to do well over this period. That's one. The second sector which I would like to point out is the one which has made, because of the pandemic, has suddenly got a lot of business opportunity for that sector. That is IT. As we all know, everyone's individual life has been completely reset post-pandemic.
Correct.
Right? Your way of behaving, you're working from home. Post-pandemic also, a lot of people are saying, I want to continue working from home, because the freedom and the flexibility it gives to manage your family life with this life is phenomenal. But when you work from home, now you need that much more data. Companies have to invest that much more in cloud. They have to make so much. So all companies have to undergo a digital transformation to get ready for the new post-pandemic world. So IT companies are going to have huge business, which is very similar to what happened in the year 2000, which what is called Y2K. All the numbers had to be reset from 4-digit to this digit. So similar to that, I think the whole world, whether it's a manufacturing, banking, insurance, any sector, they're undergoing a huge reset, and IT companies are going to be the beneficiaries. So I believe IT is in a sweet spot because India, because of the mass of IT graduates that we have, because we took early leadership in the IT status, I believe Indian IT companies, whether they're large cap, mid cap, or small cap, are going to benefit. And though the market has discounted that, because this is
Yes.
open secret, still I believe the growth can reward the expectation of the market. The growth will still come slightly better. So I believe IT and banking in today's context are something that should be a permanent part of your allocation as a portfolio.
So in banking, do you prefer private banks or PSU?
So it depends on whether you're prepared for a volatile journey or want a safer journey. Private bank valuations are quite high,
Yes.
but their business models are quite robust, and so they will deliver. They are very similar to IT. Public sector bank, they lack public confidence, though they are public sector, because in the past, they have had inefficiencies of performance, they have had unions, they have not computerized as fast, they are a little bit of the old world, and the government ownership is a hindrance because government cannot provide that. But at the same time, they have been beaten down so much that they represent a good value buy.
Correct.
But the journey will be volatile. So I would say if you're prepared for a volatile journey, then having a little bit of public sector banks will be good, but prepare for volatility. But if you're less risk, you're more risk averse, then I would say private sector quality banks are probably give you that kind of a good journey for wealth creation.
Right, sir. So your views on the mid cap and small cap space?
So what I believe is that when you go from large cap to mid cap to small cap, three factors come into play. First is that large caps are dominated by FIIs.
Right.
So FIIs, news, liquidity flows, thought process makes a difference. Because of the FIIs coming in there, the large caps tend to be more safety oriented in their portfolio. So IT, banking, pharma during this crisis, the healthcare. So the safety aspect. So large caps are dominated by FIIs and safety aspects. Small caps at the other end are not at all owned by FIIs. So the second aspect is that small caps are by and large majority owned by either institutions or by the promoters.
Correct.
So the liquidity available is very less.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Mid caps fall in between. Right. The other aspect is that large cap is dominated by safety, whereas small caps are dominated by cyclicals.
Correct.
Okay. So what happens is that when the market is dominated by FIIs, then large cap rise. But if there is a market move towards risk, that is towards cyclicals, then even with a little bit of liquidity, small caps rise as much as large caps.
Correct, correct.
So what has happened today in the market is that after the FIIs came and pumped up the safety stocks liquidity, a lot of buying has happened in the risk stocks because they expect India to bounce back. So today, 1 year forward PE of large cap index and small cap index are equal.
Yes.
Right? Because of the concentration of sectors and the low liquidity, a little buying in small cap has taken up the valuations very high. Whereas lot of liquidity and lot of safety orientation has taken large cap very high. Right. Mid caps are in the middle because they are very diversified sectors and they don't have so much of issues of promoter holding, and FIIs also buy a little bit. So mid caps are actually at a 30% discount to large cap and small cap today.
Correct, correct.
So mid cap have a blend of value and growth in them today. So mid caps will do the catch up in the next rally. So I believe in a portfolio allocation today, right? Mid caps are in a sweet spot. So you should allocate a little more than half of your portfolio to mid caps, and the rest half you can split equally between large cap and small cap. That is the correct way, I would say. Given the current situation, that's the way I would look at it.
Right, sir. So any advice that, from you, given your experience and knowledge, that a pattern which first-time investors or new investors or millennials should follow when it comes to investing?
So I would say that the same thing I said at the beginning of my chat today, which is always do goal-based investing. It need not be that goal is always 10 years for retirement. No, even if you have a 1 year or 2 year goal, for each investment, set a goal aside and write it down in your iPad. I don't want to say pen to paper because millennials don't use paper. So in your iPhone or iPad, just capture saying, I am buying so many thousand shares of this stock today. I want to be able to buy a car with that in 2 years' time. Whatever, I'm just saying.
Right.
Please write down a goal for every investment. That will help you to make the sell decision at the right time. Because buy decision, you have money in your bank, you go and buy. The biggest problem with millennials is they don't know when to sell.
Correct.
So the first is, if you have a goal-based approach, when the goal is achieved, you will sell. The second is that please be ruthless about liquidating it. Don't listen to somebody saying this is now going to double. No, doesn't matter. Your original goal is achieved, please liquidate. Second philosophy. Third philosophy is that generally for any goal, always diversify into 2-3 asset classes. Don't depend on one stock or one particular mutual fund to deliver that value. God knows which will do well in that time frame. So always diversify. And fourth is asset allocation. What I said about asset allocation, it's important that you always keep some money aside for a rainy day, some money for unexpected expenses which you would like to do. So do an asset allocation across asset classes is the way I would say. And finally, right, do research.
Correct.
I would say that today at the drop of a button, you have Value Research, Morningstar.com, ICICI Securities, IIFL Securities. All of you provide research report. You have a lot of time on hand because you're working from home.
Correct.
So I would say spend 5 times the amount of time you spend investing, you spend researching. Right? Then finally you hit the button to buy a mutual fund or a stock. I would say spend a lot more time on research, because over a period of time, you learn that knowledge is easily available. Knowing where to look is the more important thing.
Is the key, right, sir? So you have guided us so well about, asset allocation, about the themes like banking and IT sector, which we should look at. And for the millennials, the advice that you have given is like, those were the golden words for, don't be scared of selling and goal-based and writing down on your iPads. That is something which, people can easily follow. It's not very difficult also. So thank you so much, Mr. Subramaniam, for giving us your time. And we really had a good session with you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.